Hello, hello. We're down to the final two for week 11 in Rotterdam. Thank you for choosing the talkSPORT Darts YouTube channel. Ian Danter here with Scotty Dog, Scott Mitchell, as we prepare for the final match between the bottom two in the table at the start of the night, Chris Dobey and Stephen Bunting. And we've just watched, Scotty, me and Paul Nicholson have just watched a belter between the Bullet and Luke Littler. What did you make of that encounter?
Well, it was one of those games I couldn't keep my eyes off of. Sat there at the side, I thought the Bullet had it all in the bag. Then all of a sudden, you think that Littler's given him too much a lead, and away he starts chipping away and coming back and getting right in the face of Bunting. But double nine miss right at the end. He hit a 1-4-5 to get himself out of it against Rob Cross, and you were thinking, can he hit that double nine? And it just didn't quite go.
So close, it rattled the wire on the inside.
If he'd have had fatter points, it'd have been in. That's how close it was.
Yeah, and he changed his darts, you'll have noticed that during that final, and that's when he started getting the bird from the crowd, that he was just taking his time to put his stems and flights into brand new barrels to try and adjust for the conditions that have clearly been a talking point all night, Scott.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, he's obviously gone back to his regular set, and it nearly paid off, didn't it? He just felt they weren't right in that game. But then the heat in the atmosphere and everything changes in these places. From the start, it can be quite cold early doors, but as those fans keep screaming at you, I can't explain to you enough at these venues. You turn around and look at them, and they're all shouting towards you, and it hits you. All their breath hits you like a hot wind on a summer beach. It's a really strange thing to try and explain, and it can change the whole atmosphere of the stage. The stage then becomes really, really hot, and maybe the heat was getting rid of whatever problems there were earlier in the evening. It's a difficult one to say, but
add that to the lights on the stage, which keep that stage incredibly brightly lit, even though it's LED lights these days and it's not the old bulbs that used to really warm you up.
No, you're still anywhere between 35 and 40 degrees up there on that stage. It's and then you've got to add the way that your heart is pumping, and you know, you make it feel warmer than it is as well inside. And we do wear all these sort of space age materials nowadays for darts, and we're all about 5 stone overweight.
Well, Jelle Klassen was clearly struggling in the Players' Championship events this week. I think it was Paul Nicholson, our colleague, who was saying on commentary on the PDC channels, maybe you should put a couple of shirts in the fridge, ready to just get them out ready. Because it is extraordinary that the sheer range of conditions that dart players play for ranking money and ranking points in. You go from the floor tournaments, not just in Rosmalen, but also back here in places like Leicester and Barnsley and Milton Keynes, where there's nobody around other than the referee. Then you've got tournaments like the UK Open, and you talk about people being on your shoulder. Those outer boards at Minehead look absolutely brutal to me, where there's, 6 boards next to each other, maybe more, and there's all sorts going on behind you as players, with encouragement from other boards that seeps across to yours. And then you've got tens of thousands in a place like the Ahoy in Rotterdam, like tonight. And you're combating against the slightly drafty stage by the sounds of things too.
Yeah, no two situations ever feel the same. And I think that you're absolutely right. I think I've played in most situations. The only ones that I really haven't played in is like at Blackpool, where they say the heat is the extremity in July. And
it can be. Last year wasn't that bad from what we've experienced in the years that we've been covering the match play. There have been some nights where, it's oppressive. And even though there's only 2,000 people inside the Winter Gardens, if you're third or fourth match on, then it's not much fun, I would say.
No, I would agree. And I think sometimes, the public look at it and go, hang on a minute, you're getting paid awful lots of money to be up there and play your game, and you're in a very privileged position. Yes, we are, but you still want it to be right to perform your best for them. You want the conditions to be right. So it is very difficult. Look, And the organisers don't go up there and try and make sure that there's a draft.
No.
Let's not, we carry on and players carry on, particularly if they've lost, and say, this, that, and the other. Nobody goes up there to try and make sure there's a draft in a room. They would have done different things this year to try and make sure that there isn't. Every effort would have been made to try and make sure there isn't. And it's just unfortunate. It's just unfortunate that this is a big night as well. It's a big crowd. It's coming to the end of the Premier League. Everybody notices these things that are happening in these various venues, and we just hope it sort of doesn't continue.
Well, if we look at the bigger picture of the Premier League table right now, then I would imagine that Rob Cross, Michael van Gerwen, Nathan Aspinall going to be looking over their shoulder a little bit about what these two guys beneath them are starting to do. Because if this trend continues, Scott, and we go to Liverpool next week, and how much more motivated does Stephen Bunting need to be next week than being back in his hometown, things could really start to close up by the time we get to those critical weeks 15, 16, 17.
And what happens as a dart player, you always think best case scenario when you start looking at the table and totting things up. You don't ever think worst case scenario as a player. So you think, this week I've got so-and-so first game, so that's really good. I could get a couple of points there. And you start putting the points on and taking them off. You've got to be a little bit careful doing that. But there's still 4 nights to go. And I've got to say, I don't think anybody's out of that 4th spot. It's there to be had. And I think that maybe MVG has dropped out of favour on that tonight with his -6 for not being there the week before. He's going to find it very, very difficult with the darts that he's throwing to nick that 4th spot. So I think it's very open.
Yeah, Michael van Gerwen only averaged in the mid-80s tonight in his quarter-final against Bunting. But his home supporters didn't get the joy they wanted. They didn't get to see their hero go deep in this Premier League tournament, but we are almost ready for Messrs Dobey and Bunting to get onto the stage in Rotterdam and give us the final between the bottom 2 players in the table to see who gets the 5 points and who gets the 3. They'll both be grateful for the points they're getting tonight, but it's a question of which way those points tallies go. Who gets the 5, who gets the 3, who gets the £10,000 for winning the night at Rotterdam in itself. Chris Dobey really, really consistent, and Stephen Bunting managing to withstand one hell of a fight back from Luke Littler in his semi-final to get through to face the bullet, to face Dobey, should I say.
You've got to remember that these two started the night off. They had 40 180s apiece at the bottom of the 180 table as well. Dobey had only played 14 matches before tonight. Bunting only 12. So the way that they've conducted themselves and played this evening to get to the final has been outstanding, you have to say it.
We've just seen some footage of Dutch starting heroes going back to when Michael van Gerwen first participated in the PDC World Championship back in 2008, and not long after was a 3-time champion. But it's not been his sport in recent times, even though he's a 7-time Premier League champion. He is one of those players who's looking at his potential for making top 4 this year. Just might be getting a little nervous at the form of those underneath him who are starting to find their feet. Notably the 2 finalists tonight in Chris Dobey and Stephen Bunting. Munich is next for the European Darts Grand Prix. Most players will be there. I believe Dimitri van den Berg, the dream maker, will not be there, but everyone else at the top of the leaderboard should be there. Now Dimitri is struggling to be involved in the World Match Play because he's on the Pro Tour Order of Merit. He's only picked up 15,000 ranking points. 54,000 is what belongs to Luke Woodhouse, and because he's out of the top 16, then Dimitri van den Berg, he's going to have to go great guns in what's left of the ranking tournaments between now and Blackpool to get back into that top 16, because he's not going to do it via the Pro Tour Order of Merit, Scott Mitchell.
No, he's not, and you know, I do again find it a strange one that he is not going to the European. There must be a good reason for it, but yeah, he is one that, I mean, the tournament's a weaker tournament without him, isn't it? You know, it's one of those you don't see the match play without Dimmy. He's has great following in the UK, and he does play so well there. So yeah, he's going to be disappointed, but you know, it's not totally over. There is a possibility, but he's playing other people around him that are thinking exactly the same way.
Yeah. And there's other players that look like they're not going to be joining us in Blackpool that we're used to seeing. Mensah Suljovic, who actually was playing quite well in the Players' Championship events that we just had. Ian White's been working hard to try and get himself back up the rankings. He's on 36,000 ranking points, but still some way away from Luke Woodhouse and Ricardo Pietreczko in the last two spots. They're on 54,000 ranking points. Michael Smith, bully boy, on 50, so he could still sneak in even though he's not at his best. Gabriel Clemens, former German #1 and World Championship semi-finalist, looks to be out the running. Callan Ridds, who we've seen in Blackpool before now, he's got work to do. And Ryan Joyce as well, who made a Euro Tour final against Nathan Aspinall. He has still got work to do if he's going to join the 32 players for the World Match Play. A reminder that is from, I think, the 19th to the 27th of July, the World Match Play, and we'll bring you every session on the talkSPORT network, talkSPORT 2 for the most part. We'll bring you watch-alongs as well on the talkSPORT Darts YouTube channel right the way through until the final night on the Sunday the 27th. But the final is upcoming between the world #4 Stephen Bunting and the world #6 Chris Dobey. And these are the two players who some commentators and pundits, Scott Mitchell, said shouldn't be in the Premier League as one of the two of the 4 wildcard picks.
Yes, some did, and I can understand at the time when the picks were made. I do get it, and I do understand, but it's all a matter of opinion, isn't it? And we're all entitled to opinions. So I kind of get where they're coming from, but for me, I don't think these two have let anybody down by being in it in this last sort of 10 weeks. Now in week 11, we're a few to go, and they're now starting to show their mettle. They're now getting used to it. And here they are, they find themselves in a final.
You have to remind yourself that Bunty kept running into opponents, hitting great averages against him in the early weeks of the Premier League, which is why he was on nul points for so long. Dobey reached a final in Belfast on the first night, and he thought, okay, he's set fair. But it's only really tonight where he's shown that form again. Here he is in another final. And Dobey is about to be first to walk to the stage ahead of this final in Rotterdam. Great crowd again. It's astonishing the number of people that turn out. But then, you know, the Netherlands doesn't get too many chances to see the PDC elite. So when they come to the Ahoy in Rotterdam, tickets are going like hotcakes.
They're usually sold out within an hour of the announcement that they're going back there the year before. They're so difficult to get your hands on, and the Dutch are just mad for darts. Started back in the day with Barneveld, and it's just continued on, and now they have new Dutch stars coming through behind Barney, behind, you know, Van Gerwen. There are a new bunch coming through: Noppert, Van Dijvenbode, you know, Jane Van Veen, Wessel Nyman. They're just coming through. They just seem to be having a production role of new faces. And had Littler not been around, we may have been talking about one or two of those that I just mentioned.
Van Veen is the one that springs to mind, having played Littler in a World Youth Final. But Wessel Nyman, the tall, lanky Dutchman, he looks a real talent and could well be part of that next generation that pushes on through. So in terms of continental Europe, the strength of German darts, with Schindler, with Pietreczko, with Nico Springer. Max Hopp looks to be getting back to something like his best form in recent times after spending a long time out of the game and losing his tour card. So German and Dutch darts on the rise. Stephen Bunting trying to rise up the Premier League table, looking for another nightly win. He won in Berlin, let's not forget, to get that 5-point haul before he won his maiden Euro Tour event not long after in Riesa. So he likes hopping over the channel just now, does Bunting?
Yeah, he does. He seems to like to play away from home with those arrows rather than he does. But I don't think there's any conscious effort. It's just that's where it's happening for him at the moment.
Well, I think he's won the battle of the walk-ons. I think Chris Dobey knows it.
Without doubt.
There's a rueful look on Chris Dobey's face to say, OK, you've seen my PJ Duncan, you've raised me Pitbull.
Yeah, Ant and Dec don't seem to be so popular in Holland, do they?
I wonder if the Dutch even know who Ant and Dec are.
Well, to be fair, in Holland they had a little bunch of guys called the New Kids that were a little bit crazy and out there riding little mopeds and stuff and digging up roads. It was crazy, but you had to be there to see it. And we were watching these guys on TV when we were travelling out there with BDO events 10 or 12 years ago. So, yeah, so they had their own equivalent of Ant and Dec. They were a little bit crazier though. Mullets and everything, a lot.
Well, the walk-ons are done. Now it's time for the practice starts, and then we can get the phony war over with and get the real stuff started. First to 6 legs will pick up the weekly prize of £10,000 and the all-important 5 points to add to their tally in the table. And I think Bunty has won the honour backstage for the bull, so he will get first dibs when we get underway. George Noble will be the voice you hear calling out the scores as our referee. So much like the Carling Cup final a few weeks back, it's Liverpool against Newcastle for the final here in Rotterdam. So Bunting on 8 points, Dobey on 10 with 2 more points up for grabs. So if Bunting wins, everybody will be in double figures, and it would just bunch things up that much more.
And make the last 4 weeknight regular darts very interesting indeed.
So only played once in the Premier League, and that win went to Chris Dobey against Bunting, but it is indeed Stephen Bunting who will get this final underway. And he starts as he means to go on, maybe with a maximum, not quite, but 140 will do nicely. And these two are hitting great averages en route to the final, so I guess we shouldn't expect anything less, Scott.
No, we shouldn't, and nobody's gone home in this venue, have they? The venue is still absolutely rammed. Sometimes you get later in the evening and 1 or 2 skulk off and don't watch the final, but that's not the case here in Rotterdam. Everybody is staying till the final dart.
Well, it goes back to that keenness to see the PDC elite on one of those rare occasions they get the opportunity to take in the very finest darts players in their own home patch.
And it comes to the thought of, how did it take so long to get out there? You know, Premier League has been going for so long, and Barney was introduced. I remember going to the Premier League in Bournemouth and Barney hitting that first 9 darter, and yeah, you know, it's everybody's into it.
It's a global game. They just announced the World Series events in places like Madison Square Garden for later in the summer. Darts is global and then some. Bunty's down to 40 in this opening leg.
56.
Dobey against the darts is only just down to the biggest finish of all, 170, but Bunty for tops, very nicely done, and leads 1-0.
Yeah, nice holder throw. He'll be happy with that. settles you down in the final. You just want to get out there and hit your first treble 20 nice and early, and then hit your first double nice and early, and just settle yourself down.
Bunty, who stands right at the right-hand corner of the oche, although right now he's just shifted into the centre of the oche, unusually for him, but poor visit from him. Both of them not breaking 450 with their first 3 darts. Dobey on throw, that's more like it from Hollywood. Oh, third dart just deflects below treble 20, but it gives him a 140 score to get an advantage to try and hold throw and get one under his belt at the start of this final.
Dobey's been a 180 machine this evening. You mustn't forget.
6 18s from Dobey hit there from a lovely visit that takes him down to 190. Not quite a finish, but Bunty back on 367. And again, he's shifting around the oche, looking for an angle to pick up a treble 20. Gets it with the final dart for a 99 visit. But Dobey is way ahead in this leg.
Yeah, absolutely. Bunty's just not quite getting that first dart right there in this second leg. He was fine in the first leg, but just seems to be dropping low. And you have to remember, his final was a 6-5 win in Berlin over Gerwyn Price. So he knows how to go the distance. We know that he's done that tonight against Littler as well.
Double 16 for Chris Dobey to level it up at 1 apiece. On the wire with 1 dart in hand, and on the wire with the second dart in hand as well. So he may be back, but Stephen Bunting wants the big fish. 170. Can he take it out to break throw and send this place potty? Settles on the oche now. No, he's hit single 5. He's very wayward with that first dart. But he covered on treble 19s to get down to a 2-dart finish.
Yeah, maybe took a little too long over that, Stephen. But it's allowed Bunting to come back and polish the 32 off anyway. But yeah, maybe took a little bit longer than Stephen would usually if it hadn't been in the final.
So we're on throw. Dobey pinning that 16 very nicely. And the trebleless visit from Bunting to start leg 3 with the darts. Can Dobey take advantage? First start really underpitched, but super cover on treble 19, not once, but twice.
And you don't mind underpitching if you can go and fill in with the last 2. You don't mind that at all. That's a better dart from Bunting.
But then the second one's really wayward in single 1. Almost hit small 18.
The problem is for Bunting, he stands that far right on the oche that he kind of throws across the 1 and the 18 to get to the treble 20. So if he does underpitch it, the best result of an underpitched dart is a 20 under the treble 20. But it can result in a single 1 and even worse, a single 18 on the small side. But he seems to have sorted it out now. You get to a point where you say to yourself in your head, I'm fed up with throwing this stupid dart in this way, and you sort it out.
Dobey getting down from 308 with a brilliant visit of 162, 3 treble 18s, beautifully hit to leave him on 146 to break the throw. But what can Bunty do from 301? Great first start, can't quite follow it up, but 140 does take him down to a finish as well. 146 for Dobey. Treble 19 hit, another one? No, just deflects outside. So he looks for the 18s and hits a single.
There is a chance for Bunting here on 161 and it's on his throw, so the throw's been turned and he's up against it here. Can he save himself? Not quite to be. Another treble 20 would have been what the doctor ordered. Sometimes I like that last dart at 25 to leave 59 and make things a little easier, but
double 16 again for Dobey from 52. He's pinned it again, and this time he's 2-1 up, breaking the throw. And that's pretty much where the last double 16 went. There was a little indentation in the board that Dobey seemed to follow. In it went.
And that will give Dobey a lift. You feel that the momentum's starting to go his way. You start believing when it's your night. You start seeing things like that happen, and it just increases and it adds to your belief that it's your time and your moment.
Well, he got to the final in Belfast and couldn't convert. Here he is in the final in Rotterdam. 2-1 up with a break of throw. Slightly wayward second dart, but a treble 18 saves that visit for Hollywood.
Would you say that Dobey making that final the first week and losing it sort of hindered him for a couple of weeks and he lost a bit of confidence maybe?
Well, that's true. I mean, you know, because like Bunty, he's not been a Premier League regular, so when these opportunities come along, as the late great Graham Taylor said, you've got to grasp them when they come along. And sometimes, yeah, you get a bit tight, you get a bit tense, I should imagine, because you're desperate to please yourself as well as those around you and justify your selection as a wild card. That must play on your mind.
It does, and also, you know how you felt in that moment. You can have all your family and friends saying, oh, we're proud of you, you're brilliant, you're this, you're that, the other. You know why it went wrong. You know in that moment that what you did wrong, whether you went tight, whether you went too loose, whatever, whether the dart slipped out your hand, whether you made a silly mistake. So you can't kid yourself. You know why it went wrong, and sometimes that takes a couple of weeks to get over.
Bunty
44.
only hits 44 from 218, so he's not down to a finish. Dobey wants 92 to go 3-1 up. Treble 20 wanted for double 16, 72 left. So he picks off treble 16 to leave himself on double 12, and that is a very nice recovery to tidy up for Chris Dobey to go 3-1 up in this final in Rotterdam.
Yeah, when he gets there, he's not missing now. You don't want to be leaving all your best darts in the practice room when you get to the final. I'm sure they won't have done too much practice between games here. You've thrown enough darts on the evening.
96.
Bunty, of course, hit a 9-darter in the practice room last week in Berlin, but that did end up serving him well to get his confidence up.
Well, in the series, there's just over 18,000 darts thrown before a dart was thrown this evening. I'm sure that's well over that now, but there's been plenty of action tonight, that's for sure, and exciting action as well.
It's been a great night. Bunting, a breakdown now, 3-1 to Dobey in a race to 6. 2 darts right in treble 20 in the corner from Dobey, and it fills it up. There was room for another 10 in that bed. But he only needs the 3. But he's not quite down to a finish. 2-2-4 plays 2-6-5. Bit of a bag of nails from Bunty on this visit.
47.
Only 47 scored, nowhere near a finish.
He's under immense pressure here, Bunting. That was probably Dobey's 12th 180 of the evening.
100.
Well, he's a heavy scorer. We know this about Chris Dobey. We know he can pepper the treble 20 and get to the outer ring in 4 visits, 5 visits regularly. But it's about what he does when he gets to those ends of legs. Bunty pops in a max at a very opportune time, down to double 19 if 1-2-4 doesn't go. Treble 18 for Dobey leaves the bull, hits a single 18 instead. Looks like he's staying on the 18s and hits the treble with the final dart to leave himself on double 16.
Looks like he's going straight at it, Bunting.
He is. Oh, he split it.
22.
So he's left himself with double 8 if he comes back. But Dobey for 4-1, double 16 in exactly the same mark in that double 16 bed again for Hollywood. And he's 2 away from victory in Rotterdam.
He is indeed, but I've got to say, if you'd have spoken to Stephen Bunting after week 8 and his another first round defeat, and you said, right, next week, mate, you're going to win it in Berlin, you're going to have a good week 10, and you're going to be in the final again in week 11, he would never have believed you. No. He wouldn't have believed you. So even though Bunting's being beat here, surely he could see enough of him that he has had a massive upturn in the last 3 weeks.
Well, the trend of results is so much better for Stephen Bunting. It's whether he's left it too late in order to have a real say in those top 4 positions, if we are to assume that Humphries and Littler at the top of the tree cannot be caught. Dobey in the red bit, not quite a maximum, but on throw in this 6th leg. He's down to a 2-dart finish of 98. Bunty from 305 went for 2 bullseyes
Crucial required 98.
But he's down to the big fish.
Indeed, and you have to say, Dobey here
58.
is inflicting pain on Bunting.
170.
He's good enough to be in the 18.
Treble 19,
96.
hits 3 of those and then a single 19, so he's down to 74, but Dobey now wants tops for 5-1. He's well underneath by an inch. Looks down at double 10 and pins that. One away from victory, Chris Dobey. Playing very, very well indeed. Keeping a good, steady average in this final of 96. Bunty's averaging 98.
98.
But Chris Dobey can see the winning line very clearly in front of him. And pins 6-19s at the start of this 7th leg. He could make this very academic indeed against Bunting, who's now, his body language, a slight shake of the head.
And when you've got a 5-1 lead, you're able to relax. These are the easier ones to bring home. Yes, they get a bit tense when you get to the end of them, but you've got a lot of time. It's not like if you're 5-4 here and up against the throw. It's been a polished performance here from Dobey. He's now just got he's just wishing that he can finish it off now, and just to have these last few throws exactly the same as he did the first few to get him in front.
There's a max from Bunting to apply a little bit of pressure, down to 177 on throw against Dobey,
60.
who picks up a trebleless visit. He's not had many of those tonight. So, that's more like it from Bunting. The first dart's right there, and he sets himself up for tops with a 137 visit. So a chance to get back within 3. Dobey hits a 180 to leave himself on 70 to pressurise the Bunting throw, but tops goes. So it's 5-2 now, but Dobey's got the darts in leg 8.
Yeah, special leg there from Bunting. Not easy to do. You're 5-1 down, you're staring it in the face.
135.
Dart just deflects into treble 5 for Dobey. Bunting already coming down, looking at 19s at the start of this leg. Looks for 18, straining every sinew, but comes up dry with the trebleless visit of 57. So Dobey has the whip hand here, looking to bring it home, and a 140 follows up the 135.
Other than it in a 9-darter, to open up on a winning leg with 2 trebles in the first visit, 2 trebles in the second visit, it's a little bit, and that's great, a great return from Bunting, but Dobey now needs a treble, and he's got it again. He's getting away.
96.
He's down to a finish. That maximum from Bunting keeps him interested in this 8th leg, but he'll probably need another ton-plus score. He does from 264. Oh, he's had a bounce out. What a time to get a bounce out, and a score of just 40. Dobey has got 6 starts from 130 for this weekly title in Rotterdam. 110 left. He doesn't have to go treble 20 bullseye. He's going to anyway, but just hits single. So 90 left. Went for treble 18 and hit single.
Yeah, he's always going to come out for the 54 then, play it a little bit safe, try and leave himself where he would want to be. He should get a dart now from 72. Bunting trying to put all the pressure he can on. He leaves himself 1-2 ticks, but it's all about Dobey now.
Looking for 16s from 72. He's got another for tops for the match. Only needed the 1 dart, and Chris Dobey gets his first nightly win of the 2025 Premier League. He reached the final at the start of this tournament, but tonight he has fully deserved the 5 points and the £10,000 prize money. He beat Stephen Bunting in the end convincingly by 6 legs to 2, with an average of just a shade over 96. Well played, Chris Dobey. I can't think of a more deserving winner tonight based on the form we've seen from the 8 players.
No, he's been at it from the get-go. The scoring was right on point tonight for Dobey. He really did set his stall out nice and early in that game 1, and beating Luke Humphries is, just gives him a lift to start the night, and on it's gone from there.
and his doubles percentage in the final, 67%. I mean, Bunting wasn't bad, but he only got 4 darts at double in that final. So Chris Dobey picks up the 5 points to move into double figures and just apply that pressure to MBG, to Cross, to Aspinall, to Price, above him in the table. He's not done yet in this Premier League. He goes on to 12 points, goes above Rob Cross on matches 1. Cross drops down to 7th. So he's 12 points. Van Gerwen and Price both on 15 and Aspinall on 17. Getting tight in the middle of the table there, Scott Mitchell.
Yeah, and it's going to make the last few weeks really interesting, because the guys are looking at this table as well. They will know what games they will target to expect to get points. But I think we've seen tonight, with the bottom 2 making the final, you can't expect to get points anywhere in this bunch. They really are a great bunch of lads, and I'm sure travelling around they're all getting on and being friendly and everything else, but that's all going to stop. I think we're going to see needle over the next few weeks, because there's an awful lot at stake for these guys, and we're not talking just places in the league table. We are talking monetary value to wherever they finish in the table, and that's what the game's all about, is earning money for yourself and your family.
So Dobey moves out of the bottom 2 and gets within striking distance of those just above him. Terrific performance from Hollywood to see off Bunting in the final. But as we mentioned before with Bunting, at least we're seeing now the sort of performances and progress that perhaps his performances deserved and didn't get in the early weeks of this Premier League.
Yeah, I think we are. I think he said himself after week 8 that he's just got to keep doing what he's doing. He's doing the right things. He's just been a little bit unfortunate at times, but if he dropped off that average, he wouldn't give himself chances, and it's exactly what he's done. The last 3 weeks he's played a better game. If he's dropped off his A game, he's gone down to a B+, nothing like a C or anything. And he's kept himself in it, given himself chances. And now look at the last 3 weeks, you're probably looking at him and going, if the table would be reversed now with these 2 guys right up there at the top if they started 3 weeks ago. So yeah, a very different sort of scene is what we're seeing, but it leads to be an exciting finish to this Premier League season.
Scott, thanks very much as always for your contributions tonight, along with Paul the Asset Nicholson, who's been with us as well on the talkSPORT Darts YouTube channel. Scotty Dog will be back with me and Laura Turner next week for night 12 in Liverpool, and our coverage will start on the talkSPORT Darts YouTube channel just after 7 p.m. UK time. Just one last reminder that when it comes to the Darts Premier League, the last thing that you need is an online mishap throwing you off your game. Amongst the fastest VPNs available on the market, NordVPN gives you a quick location change when you need it most. Just go to nordvpn.com/dartsvpn and get 2 years plus 4 months free, and a birthday deal. It is risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. So on behalf of Scott Mitchell, Paul Nicholson, our producer Matt Gubbins and myself, Ian Danter, we bid you farewell on the talkSPORT Darts YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe and spread the word, and we'll speak to you next week on night 12 of the Premier League from Liverpool. Cheerio.